How often do you make a detailed plan for your day only to ignore it when it's time to act? You're not alone. The reality is, life often throws us curveballs, and those perfectly crafted schedules quickly become wishful thinking. I used to be exactly the same, constantly setting up crazy plans, convinced that if time was there, I would stick to it. But then the day would spiral out of control, and I'd end up feeling like I'd accomplished nothing. Over time, I realized that sticking to a schedule isn't just about discipline, it's about creating systems that work with our brains, not against them. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 unconventional strategies that help me actually stick to my schedule and get things done. Hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. Now, you've probably heard about time blocking before, but this isn't your standard version. I call it time blocking 2.0, where you layer in flexibility without losing that time block structure. The idea is the same. You block off parts of your day for specific tasks, but there are 3 additional parts that take time blocking to the next level. Firstly, I create buffer blocks between my major time blocks. These are small chunks of time, normally around 15 to 30 minutes, where I can deal with any unexpected distractions, take a bit of a breather, or even catch up if a task is overrunning. And here's why this works. The problem with traditional time blocking is that it assumes your day will go perfectly. By adding in these buffer blocks, you're giving yourself breathing room to handle life's little curveballs while staying on track. And I've found that this small tweak reduces the stress of trying to rigidly stick to a schedule and allows me to flow from one task to the next without feeling too overwhelmed. It's really structuring for flexibility. The next part is all about setting alarms around your time blocks. Now, these aren't just reminders. I'll use alarms on my phone that actually assign a best self identity. So what does this mean? Well, for example, my hustle alarm will remind me to focus on my deep work time block, and then my best self alarm will remind me to hit the gym. By using these alarms as a reminder of why I'm doing something and the person I want to become, I find that I'm much more likely then to stick to that habit. The final part of time blocking 2.0 is to not only block time during a specific day for tasks like deep work, but to also block out times where I'm doing the same task to avoid task switching. So on Mondays, I'll focus more on meetings, while Tuesdays might be recording content. These subtle changes to time blocking have taken my productivity to the next level. Okay, the next part of the strategy is all about getting physical. And I'm not talking about exercise, although that helps too. I'm talking about physically committing to your schedule by visual and tactile cue use. It's what I call the physical commitment. Instead of just keeping everything digital, I now like to write out my schedule and goals by hand on things like sticky notes, in my journal, or on a large whiteboard. Then I'll place notes or references to these in places where I can't ignore them, such as on my computer screen, on the fridge, or even on the bathroom mirror. And why does this work? Well, it's the same reason sticky notes or handwritten note to-do lists feel so much more concrete than a digital task list. When something's physically put in front of you, it's much harder to push it aside or forget about it. The visual reminder acts as a mental nudge throughout the day, gently keeping you focused on what needs to be done. This simple act of turning your goals into physical objects adds a layer of commitment that a digital notification just can't match. And for me personally, I find that writing things down feels much more tactile and actionable. And there's that real satisfaction in physically removing or crossing off a task when it's then done. Okay, so here's a unique twist on the just get started mentality. It's called the 3-minute momentum rule. When you feel stuck or resistant to starting a task, give yourself just 3 minutes to begin. You can set a timer if you like, and the goal isn't to complete the task in that time, it's just to get the ball rolling. Often the hardest part of any task is starting, but once you've started, it becomes much easier to then keep going. And that's the magic of momentum here. Once you're in motion, the task usually feels less daunting, and you'll likely keep working long after those 3 minutes are up. It's a bit of a psychological trick to bypass your brain's natural resistance to starting, and this technique works especially well for tasks you tend to procrastinate on, whether it's answering emails, starting a workout, or tackling that big, overwhelming project. I found that by lowering the bar to just getting started within that 3 minutes, I'm often surprised by how much I can then get accomplished throughout the day. Okay, the next strategy is rooted in psychological research and has been shown to dramatically increase your chances of sticking to a habit. It's called implementation intention. Essentially, it's a plan you make ahead of time that links a specific situation with the habit that you want to perform. The format's pretty simple. When something happens, I will then do something else. When X happens, I will do Y. For example, when I finish lunch, I'll walk for 10 minutes. Or when I wake up, I'll drink a glass of water. This technique is powerful because it removes the decision-making process altogether. You don't have to think about when to do the habit, you've already pre-decided. Research shows that people who use implementation intentions are far more likely to follow through with their habits. And this is because it ties the action to a clear trigger. You can even take this a step further and write out a list of key tasks tasks or goals, and then share this contract with someone that you trust. It could be a friend or a family member or even a colleague in work. And here's where things get really interesting. In that contract, we can also include a consequence for not following through. And this might be something small like donating to charity, but it shouldn't feel like a real loss. Once we've sent that contract to our accountability partner, the stakes are set a little bit higher. I'm not just relying on discipline, I'm relying on that power of pre-commitment. And you're psychologically wired to avoid losing something that you've committed to, especially when someone else is involved out of fear of embarrassment or just peer pressure. This strategy has made a huge difference in getting me to follow through on important tasks, and in my companies, we'll often share what we're going to do each day so that we all have a communal accountability buddy. Now, habit stacking isn't anything new. It's where you pair a new habit with an existing one. But what if we take this to the next level where we create micro habits and then attach them to some routines that we already do consistently? Okay, so here's how this one works. Instead of thinking about big, life-changing habits that might seem overwhelming, we can break them down into bite-sized pieces and link them to things we already do. For example, if we want to start meditating every day, we can start by pairing just 2 minutes of meditation with something that we already do, like brushing our teeth. The twist here? Well, every time you successfully complete the micro habit, you can reward yourself immediately. Even something as small as mentally congratulating yourself can trigger your brain's reward system by releasing dopamine. This trick accelerates the reinforcement process, helping the habit stick more quickly. Over time, you can build on this foundation and add even more to your habits without overwhelming yourself at the start. The key is to start small, make it easy, and link it to something that you've already done regularly. Now, sticking to a schedule and your habits isn't just about forcing you to stay disciplined. It's about setting up systems and processes that hold you accountable. These strategies have helped me to stay on track even on my toughest days. So make sure you give them a try and let me know how you get on in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to check out this video on how I use AI tools to increase my productivity and time management even more. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll catch you again in the next one. See ya.